Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bitcoin and Not Crypto live session. My name is Forrest Hodel. In today's video, I'm going to be just chatting, hanging out, talking with y'all. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat and we'll do that. First things first, though, for the newcomers to the show, to the first people arriving, you guys get the first chance to win some free Bitcoin. So this is courtesy of the Bitcoin Well, which is where I buy all my Bitcoin. And I have been buying some Bitcoin lately. First person to scan this QR code will actually win 315 sats. You have to use a Lightning wallet and you can, uh, scan that, win some sats, and so on. And let's do one more here. Bitcoin Well gave me a bunch of points to give to you guys. So I'm going to do that. So first person to scan that one wins. First person to scan this one wins. And if you don't want to compete against everybody else for this, you can just sign up using my link in the description. You get 5 free tosses in the Bitcoin Wishing Well, which could equate to some serious sats, right? And speaking of serious sats, let's check out the Bitcoin Treasury, the Pleb Tools Treasury, I should say. Every week I've been buying Bitcoin as an experiment here and posting about it on Twitter. And every other week, so I've done this 7 times, every other week the post goes like completely bonkers bananas and goes like gets like 100,000 impressions or whatever. Like a ton of action. People love it. But this week, not so much. So maybe next week it will. So I bought, $700 Canadian worth of Bitcoin. It's up $5, which is crazy. This is the thing with dollar cost averaging. You can see I've bought some local highs, bought some local lows, bought some middle of the roads here. I actually bought more closer to like between here and here last week because I saw that dip. And usually I do buy Monday morning, but I bought that dip because I was like, I don't know if it's going to hold. So I bought 64,612 sats at a Canadian price of 154,000. And the Canadian price right now is, where is it? Somewhere here. So I don't even know my own website. I know I put it somewhere here. Yeah, it's basically right here, 158,000 Canadian. And yeah, this is the growth chart here. I'm thinking this will be like a little insight into the future for you guys, but I'm thinking about just doing this until I get 1 million sats and then letting it ride and becoming sort of then just putting any sort of cash flows. But this business doesn't really have cash flow, so I don't know. But I have been getting donations. People have been sending me some zaps over Noster, and I add those as well. So I have a donation adjusted total here and a regular total. So yeah, that's it. Maybe we'll check this as well for anybody else. I've been experimenting a little bit. I've been a Start9 user. I've promoted Start9 quite a bit to people, and I do think that it is the best. It has better privacy and safety mechanisms built into it than Umbrel does. But Umbrel has a pretty nice UI. This is the Bitcoin node. You can see I'm on this node here, and I'm connected to 10 other peers right now. I just have outgoing connections, so I'm downloading the initial blockchain. And we're 16 hours in and I'm 74% done. So not bad. And you can actually see the peers you're connected to, what kind of node they're running. And you can change all your settings. You can connect to incoming peers really easily. I really like that. Yeah, you connect to I2P or Tor, which are both privacy networks. And you can actually change your cache size, which is really nice. So you can put a lot of the UTXO set in your RAM while you're downloading it, and then you change this back, and it'll download it even quicker. So I quite like it. Umbrel's actually pretty sick. This is instead of Start9. So this is basically another Linux distro that is open source, and I just flashed this on the same PC that I was running Start9 on. So I'm running this instead, and I got a new site, a new website that I'm building out for my coaching. So that's this here, and people will be able to So there's two different prices. So somebody wants to pay for an hour or half hour here. USD is 110, but Bitcoin's 100. So I'll be running my own BTC Pay server and actually connect that server to my website so people can pay directly on chain or Lightning, and it'll still create a call with me, and people will be able to pay for that discounted rate. You can also do Fediment here or eCash, so you can create your own eCash system where people can mint, like they can send you Bitcoin and then get eCash tokens instead, and then send those around, and then whoever ends up with them can submit them to the mint and then get their Bitcoin back. So it's a pretty cool system. eCash is really cool when you guys look into that. So, all right. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, that's what I'll be doing this session, and we'll just kind of go into it. It's nice to see Josh in the chat. I watched your video today, Josh, about switching up your channel a little bit, focusing on just whatever comes into your interests as opposed to only Bitcoin. So no longer work save Bitcoin. Retiring that awesome name, but good to see you here anyway. And I'm sure there'll be tons of Bitcoin content from you still. Naughty Vlogs, what's up? Great to see you in the chat as always, Naughty Vlogs. So this title of today's live stream, Save in Bitcoin, the rest is noise. This is something I oftentimes have to think. I ride this weird juxtaposition. I have this kind of weird line that I have to ride because part of me is interested in the noise, and there's also this part of me that wants to make content. So I pay attention to the noise so that I can make videos and inform people, my audience, about the noise that I deem to have signal within it, right? All noise has some signal, even if it's reverse signal, right? Like I would say Jim Cramer is noise. I would say Peter Schiff is noise, but you can basically reverse that noise into a signal, into a clear sound. So I that's part of like my business here, right? That's part of what I try to do here as a content creator is filter the noise and find the signal within there and relay that signal. That's my intention, right? That's taking in information, reconstituting it into my own product. That's what I'm trying to do here. So it's kind of funny that I say, the rest is noise. And this is something I agree with. And as I kind of go deeper and deeper into Bitcoin, right, I start to be more interested lately. I don't know if you've noticed, but my channel has been a lot more sort of tutorial based, a lot more educational directly, as opposed to sort of theoretically educational or financially educational or, Bitcoin Treasury company deep dives or anything like that. I've sort of been, I did this whole series on the cold card. I did a whole series on the Start 9. I'm actively creating a series on an Umbrel. I bought this phone here and actually installed Graphene OS on it this morning. Researching a privacy phone and creating a series about the privacy phone and how to do that yourself. These are the kind of where my interest has gone as I've gotten deeper into this, because so much of this is how much Bitcoin you need to retire. And, I make fun of this stuff, and you get to 0.001 Bitcoin or whatever it is. I make fun of this stuff. I will make content around that as well every once in a while. But knowing that it's going to get views and that's going to serve me and the Bitcoin ecosystem and what I'm trying to create here as well, right? Because that draws people in. The price, number go up, that draws people in. And then the fewer view videos, the tutorials, this kind of stuff is actually what is fundamentally important for these individuals to learn. So it's a weird balance thing that I personally have to do. And I think that if I was not creating content around Bitcoin, if I wasn't building a business around Bitcoin, I would completely unplug from Bitcoin, from the Bitcoin noise out there. I would literally just do what I do anyway, but just which is just buy Bitcoin with whatever savings I have and whatever extra money I make, and I would just carry on my life. Um, and that's only just because of where I'm at here. That wasn't how I felt not that long ago. That wasn't how I felt. Definitely not how I felt when I first started getting more interested in Bitcoin, because how I felt then was that Bitcoin was incredibly. I still think this way, that Bitcoin is incredibly interesting, but it was sort of this frantic needing to understand, needing to uh, intake as much information as possible as I came to additional realizations. And there's this video that I actually like reposted on my personal socials, which I do every once in a while to no fanfare, as everyone around me distances themselves as I continue to talk about Bitcoin to my personal friends and such. But it was a video of Andreas Antonopoulos getting interviewed, and he said that when he first learned about Bitcoin, he went into a fugue state and he lost 29 pounds, and he just couldn't, he didn't, because he didn't eat, he didn't sleep, he would just wake up, research Bitcoin, go deeper and deeper. And I basically said with that post that this is how every single person to some degree feels when they start getting into Bitcoin. That's the extreme case. But the other case is headphones in, listening to podcasts, reading books, everything, just becoming obsessed with it to whatever degree you're able to, or you do. But it's sort of this initial like cold plunge into Bitcoin. And then the next time you get into Bitcoin, or from there, you're sort of just like, not jumping into the deep end. You're just, you start swimming around a little bit. It's not as intense. And I feel the intensity of my obsession of Bitcoin, um, not necessarily waning, but just sort of uh, um, reaching a more like acceptable level within society. I feel no urge to. I used to, when I first got into Bitcoin, I felt such a strong urge to immediately bring up Bitcoin when I talked about people, when I talk to people in person. I feel zero of that now. I feel zero of that. I'm totally, absolutely enthusiastic and happy to talk about it, but I'm not obsessed about wedging it in, even when it fits. It just doesn't matter that much to me, because I know that these few individuals that I'm talking to and hanging out with, um, they're probably not that interested. And it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate for them, right? But it's sort of that you need to let go of the savior complex, and you can't save everybody. Um, and the thing about saving and Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is saving you as an individual and your financial future. It's not about saving others with Bitcoin. People will come to it in their own time, and they will, to whatever degree, do the Andreas Antonopoulos fugue state, right? Once they are interested enough into it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm much more interested now in sort of these, I don't know, just going deeper into like the UI, the UX, the creating, the different ways to use Bitcoin. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun using Pleb tools. It's been a lot of fun learning the cold card and diving deeper into that, and all the client sessions, and going deeper and into explaining things to people. That keeps me connected to that newer feeling of Bitcoin, that where Bitcoin is less understood and very exciting. There's a lot of people that I talk to that are in that space still, so I'm definitely still connected to it. Um, and I hope that people understand by this what I'm talking about here, that my interest in Bitcoin is not waning; it's just changing. And I think my content will and has been reflecting that change. And I hope people can change with me, as they probably, you can always go back into my back catalog and learn about all the Bitcoin Treasury company fine details, fine tooth comb of the Q4s of strategy and whatnot. But as you progress, you'll want and understand, hopefully, about self custody and running your own node and everything. Speaking of running your own node, Matt Baker's in the chat here with a question. I need to learn more about nodes and get one. Was looking at the Start9, but I'm unsure about the different hardware, OS, and node software. Umbrel is specialist operating system for running Bitcoin stuff, right? Umbrel is actually less specialist than Start9 is. So let's see. Yeah, so if we look at Umbrel here, we can actually look at the App Store. And you can see all these apps. So film, productivity, finance, media, networking, social, AI. They have all sorts of apps here. They're really much more lenient with the apps that they vet themselves and put onto their own app store. So with Start9, you can still, if there, you can develop a, what is it? Uh, it's like an APK, like a, your side, you can side load any app into Start9 if you turn it into the package that Start9 will understand. You can do that with Umbrel as well because these are open source and they have that ability to do that. But the Umbrel store has really gone through and added a lot more functionality, or like a lot more apps. So people will buy an Umbrel or download Umbrel and use it as a media server. So right here I have Jellyfin, which is like Plex. You can you can rip your own Blu-rays into digital files, right? This is the idea of doing it all legal sense, and you can put them on there, and then you can access this remotely from anywhere. You could give your friend, actually, never mind, I won't say that. You can watch your own movies that you bought and paid for digitally. So a lot of people do that, right? And that's what this Umbrel is for. Start9 does not have Plex. It does not have media servers. It forces you to, or not, it doesn't force you to, but it's much more obvious that you should, have a certificate and connect and route your own traffic. And it's just much more Bitcoin centered and has much less functionality because of that. But that's kind of like Bitcoin if you think about it. Bitcoin is not trying to be the fastest thing. It's not trying to be a centralized ledger. It's not trying to replace Swift. It is just doing its own thing, building its own monetary network, is being the most secure, most decentralized. And if people begin to value that and the fact that no one can make more Bitcoin, nobody owns Bitcoin, the network, it is just owned by everybody, and we all have to voluntarily opt in. So what I'm saying there is Bitcoin is intentionally very simple and basic and not trying to be complex, because with complexity comes vulnerabilities. So that's kind of part of the argument against Umbrel that some people have, and for Start9 is that Start9 is like, a lot of people say, you're running a Bitcoin node, run a Bitcoin node. Use that server to run a Bitcoin node. Have it protected in every way that you can, and don't open up other additional vulnerabilities and access that some of these apps might need. But Umbrel, very nice aesthetically, very much works for a Bitcoin node, a Lightning node, mempool, all these things that Start9 also does. The hardware that you buy, like if you're thinking of not doing this yourself through one of my tutorials and buying a mini PC, the Umbrel hardware is pretty basic. It's going to not be as future proof like so there's the two things with Start9. Start9 has designed their hardware to be much more future proof, so it's much higher end. The other thing too is they've done everything they can to use open source hardware, which is very difficult to do. It's actually incredibly difficult to do. Umbrel does not have that focus. Their hardware is cheaper, it's simpler, it's basic, and they don't have any sort of focus on trying to be as open source as possible with their hardware, as far as I understand it. And that being said, Umbrel is significantly cheaper because of that. But you're paying for the hardware with either of these if you buy the plug and play model, because both of these operating systems are open source. So you can download and flash them with something like Balena Etcher on a flash drive onto your own computer. You buy an old computer on Marketplace, you buy a mini PC, you can flash these, you can use them. You don't have to buy the actual hardware. It's really just a plug and play option. And Start9 is more expensive because in both scenarios, you're paying for the hardware. You're paying for the hardware when you buy an Umbrel. You're paying for the hardware when you buy a Start9 with a premium attached to it, considering that they already flashed the operating system on it. Maybe they've done a little bit extra beyond that as well. And because of that, and so there's justifiably a reason why Start9 is more expensive than Umbrel, is because the hardware is much better for the, just generally speaking there. I think with Umbrel, you can pay more to get a bunch of different, like you can specify some things within there, and maybe you can match some of the specs of the or the Start9 as well. Kramer, the definition of inverse signal. Exactly. The inverse Kramer signal. Hodl Harmony, nice to see you. What's up? Monday Pump, good to see you all. So relatable about no fanfare posting about Bitcoin on personal accounts. yeah, it's brutal. There's a couple Bitcoiners that have like found my Instagram and followed me. So I do get a couple likes every once in a while, but like all my friends, like it's like, yeah, I used to get hundreds of views a story, and now it's just dwindling down as people realize I'll post once a month on there and it's something Bitcoin related. I'll have to watch later, but Friday I bought an IBIT call option at 144 and it went down to 120 by the end of the day. And today I sold at 177, but it went to 216. Nice. Yeah, it sounds like that's a short dated option if you're only paying $1.44 for it. So it's not definitely not a leap. But that's awesome that you at least got a profit, because those short dated options deteriorate really quickly. So very interesting. Josh, 100% feel you saving others from Bitcoin or with Bitcoin. I wish I could, but it is so fruitless. Yeah, it is fruitless. It's what is it? It's sort of demoralizing, or it just, I think demoralizing is the term that I'm thinking of. It's just feels, I don't know, it feels kind of hopeless, but there's been a couple people that I've turned on to Bitcoin, and I feel very happy about that. So it's like it's really dependent on like how you're affected from it's kind of like YouTube comments. Like sometimes like the negative ones will really kind of like hit you a little bit harder than the positive ones, but the positive ones are very meaningful. But we sort of just don't, we have a different reaction to it. So we internalize it differently. We're all evolving this cycle. Exactly. We are all evolving. Legally, yes. Everyone run their Jellyfin servers legally. Great answer. Thanks from Matt. Yeah, appreciate that question. Like I said, that's what I'm interested in right now, is sort of these technical side of Bitcoin and learning deeper and deeper about that stuff. I'm always interested in just finding out what my knowledge gaps are and filling those knowledge gaps. And I, as everybody has, or everybody does, go through sort of the cycle of learning with Bitcoin, and the Dunning-Kruger effect of, thinking you know a lot and realizing how little you know. And as I learn, I hope to be able to convey advanced messages in a simple way. I think that's something that people have definitely spoken about and that they've resonated with my channel. But as you get further away from that early stage of where people are learning, it becomes maybe more difficult to do, but something worth doing for sure. Matt also says, I have done Linux Live, USB, etc., plus installs, so it's well within my tech ability, but I'm just lacking the specific info on what's what. Yeah, I would recommend watching a couple tutorials on just like actually, you know what I would recommend is if you've already done a Linux install from a boot drive before, just try it with Start9, and then try it with Umbrel, or vice versa, and just see which one you prefer. I would maybe do a little prerequisite study of just the different apps that they offer really easily. I would say if you're really only interested in running a Bitcoin node and the apps on top of a Bitcoin node, a mempool and a Lightning node and things like that, I'd probably go with Start9. I'm thinking I'm probably going to make the full switch as I'm exploring Umbrel here. I'm thinking of making the full switch from Start9 to Umbrel only because I want to do more than just run a Bitcoin node. I want to have my server. I want to try Fedimint or eCash out. Maybe have a Bitcoin not crypto Fedimint, maybe head of the mint here. Have a few other trusted parties. Yeah, just run these other things that are doable on Start9 but harder. And also I might switch back, right? Because they've been talking for years about this upgrade. It is available in alpha or alpha. Yeah. It's available like early access to the new Start9 upgrade. But I had to sort of like the technical side of that. I needed to like figure out how to install it. I was talking to Mechanic about it, and he runs that on one of his nodes and stuff. And I just need to get a little bit more details because it didn't seem very simple to me. More advanced, but something I could probably do at this point, but it seemed daunting. But I think when that happens, I think a lot of people that switch to Umbrel because Start9 was sort of falling behind on its ability, like there's sort of a hybrid Tor and ClearNet that's really easy to do with Umbrel. And the current thing of Start9, it's very difficult to do that. You sort of have to SSH in and change some parameters and stuff, and it's just really not that easy. So I think people that have needed to have ClearNet access to their node have made the switch to Umbrel. And I know with the new upgrade or update to Start9 that there's the ability to do ClearNet a lot easier. So it might make sense to switch back at some point. Digital Dreams 2049. Does it make sense to secure your network or better separate it from your standard network for running a Bitcoin node? That's an interesting question. In some ways, if you're running one of these distros, these Linux distros like Umbrel or Start9, they're both going to route your traffic through Tor, which is going to protect you from something like a DDoS attack. So there's no public IP that is being sort of disclosed and announced to peers that you're connecting to. And I would say that using that, routing it through Tor and having that as the default is going to protect you enough in that way, because there's no other way. Like if you don't have port forwarding, like you can port forward, but you can specify exactly what port you want to do that on, and have that just for your node. So you're port forwarding and allowing people in through your router to connect to your node to download the blockchain. That's a good thing to do. But you're not opening up anything else. So there's no vulnerability there. So I would just generally say, as far as I understand, no to that is the answer to this question. And you can just, I recommend for the vast majority of people, especially if you're not running Linux in general, is to use one of these operating systems. You can do this actually in a virtual machine as well on your computer. If you can figure out how to do all that, you could run one of these operating systems within your own computer. Personally, I love having the additional computer that's just a server that I can connect to on the same network or remotely, and not having it so that I have to have my main computer on to have it all running. Hodl, Harmony. I got into mining first, then opened the Bitcoin door. I run multiple nodes. I've used just Linux with Knots, Umbrel, and Start9. I like Umbrel or Linux best. Thanks for the info. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you like Umbrel best. I think Start9 has really done a slight disservice by taking so long with this new update. The last update was done in 2023, and I think Umbrel has sort of crept in and taken a little bit of the interest away from Start9. But I think Start9 is a great project, and I definitely don't regret recommending Start9 to people. I think that they have the best hardware as well, and that's typically what people need or what people are typically going to do is just buy a plug and play model. So I think that has been all right to recommend. That's interesting that you got into mining first and then opened up the Bitcoin door. There's actually, it's not that uncommon because you can figure out if you figure out the economics of mining, if you think, oh, I can buy this device, like you price it still in your dollars, right? You don't understand cryptocurrency or Bitcoin at all. You say, oh, I can buy this device. It pays me this much a day. It costs this much. I earn this much profit. You can think of it like if you have a passive income mind or a business mind, you can just think of these things as businesses. You don't even care that it's what it's attached to. That's why so many miners are not like Bitcoin maxis. There are, of course, but a lot of hobbyist miners are like, just what was the most profitable? Let me buy this machine. Hopefully I make a bunch of profits before it becomes basically worthless. There's the reuse heat aspect to it. There's the ability to resell miners as well, potentially in some cases. It's kind of its own thing that, yeah, again, isn't really about the whole ethos of Bitcoin, but it's so important in the network of Bitcoin. But it's just funny how somebody can get into that side of it and then get into Bitcoin from there. It's kind of an interesting thing, but I've seen that happen with people before. Cedar Sats, thanks for making these videos for us. They're great. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. Oh, you know what? I don't really talk about this too much, but I'm going to throw this QR code up in the corner here. This is a donation link if anybody wants to send some sats to the channel. I actually recently got basically demonetized from YouTube. It's a whole big story. I'm hopefully getting remonetized at some point, but I got no income coming in from these videos. So really it's just my coaching business. And shit, I guess that's it at this point. I mean, my other business as well, like my media business, is all tied to YouTube too. So if you guys like what I do, if you want to support the show, especially in this midterm part where I'm trying to get remonetized, all of that, you can send some sats over there. I basically treat this as like a Bitcoin super chat, like on super chats with sorry, one sec. Super chats with, so hard for me to do two things at once right now. You know what I'm trying to say, right? There we go. Yeah, super chats with YouTube. So I really appreciate anybody that does send these in. I just received a couple donos. So 1,892 sats, no note attached to it. But if you attach a note, I'll definitely read those out. So I appreciate that, everybody. And 79 sats as well from someone else. So thank you for sending in those zaps. Hopefully this channel will be remonetized and we'll go from there. But yeah. How would you answer Bitcoin is backed by nothing? I said it's backed by energy, a network of node runners, but I wasn't able to change my friend's mind. I sometimes don't know where to start. That's a really good question, Art Vandalay. Architect Art Vandalay. I like to talk about how it's backed by what it doesn't allow people to do. It's backed by the fact that no one can create more of it. Nobody has control over the issuance of it and the max supply of it. It's a unit that can be used and valued by people who hold it, and it's a unit that can be sent to somebody else. So you can transfer value, and that value cannot be debased. That's what it's backed by, in my opinion. It is backed by energy. That's another way to explain it. And I would just say there was energy cost all throughout the entire process of every single block getting created. And the energy from 2009 secured the network then. And all the energy afterward continues to secure that same block of transactions. So there's just an incredible amount of cost behind the Bitcoin network in the form of physical energy. That would be another way to explain it. But yeah, it's backed by what you can't do with it. Another 2,000 sats. I mean, all I got to say here is just that YouTube is screwing me, and people love to send a zap. So I do really appreciate it, which is the case. YouTube is absolutely a nightmare with AdSense, I will say. It's crazy. Like, yeah, I haven't had it activated for a while now. I've been trying to figure out how to fix it, who to talk to. Like, people make way more money than I do on YouTube, and they complete, like, that's their complete livelihood, and it could just be taken away from them like that. And that's basically what I've experienced at this point. But it's just much less to a degree than some people out there. But it's just crazy to me. Like, it just shows how vulnerable a centralized system like YouTube is when it's taken away from you, and there's no recourse. There's no one I can talk to. It's just brutal. So yeah, 2,000 sats from Cedar Sats here says YouTube is assholes. Fuck them. Keep up the good work, Cedar Sats. Appreciate that very much. And we got 121 sats as well. Remonetize this. Appreciate it. Awesome. I really appreciate the zaps. I mean, it means a lot, and we will have it. We will have it fixed eventually at some point. But for now, these are very helpful. So another 730 sats just came in through the old Lightning Network, and no note attached, but I appreciate it very much. Way too fast for you says, just saw your Bitcoin loan video and really great job looking at Morpho and others. What is your go-to platform? Also would be nice for larger institutions to offer that eventually to bring down interest rates. I've never heard of Morpho before. If it's crypto related, I would stay away from it. Personally, I like Ledin. It's not available everywhere. I know that people keep talking about that. I like Strike, but there's certain minimums, and again, it's not available everywhere. I don't want to endorse too much because I don't know too much about it, but Lava seems to be okay. Lava.xyz. Yeah, I wouldn't say that as too much of an endorsement. None of these are like, these are just ones that I would personally use. They use discrete log contracts and such. Yeah, I'm not too sure about Morpho. Interest rates, though, like I talked in that video, the interest rates are high, but you're able to arbitrage the fiat Bitcoin difference. And that isn't something that's going to last. These things are like, it's gradually, then suddenly. All of it, man, it's going to be crazy when fiat blows up. There's a lot of people that think it won't, that the dollars will always stick around and all this. I just think there is an escape from that anymore. And now we've never had an escape from that. In a hyperinflation environment in the past, people were just screwed. They would buy as much goods as they could, maybe gold, something like that, but it's just unrealistic that there was just no other monetary network you could adopt. And now there is. So as the cracks show, right, the cracks show, and there's a little trickle of water coming down the dam, but these things are eroding the foundation of the dam. And it might just start with a little crack and a little drip coming out of the dam, but eventually it's sort of a burst moment. It doesn't just crack and a little bit of water starts coming out and enough water to just drain it, just, not violently. It cracks and cracks, and that piece breaks, and then that triggers another piece to break, and the whole dam collapses all at once, and all the water rushes out, and it destroys the town underneath the dam. It's a gradually then suddenly moment. And if you are shorting the dollar with a loan and longing Bitcoin, even at 12.9% with Ledin, that's fiat denominated. And all of a sudden, fiat is very easy to come by because nobody wants it anymore. So you could sell a fraction, tiny little chunk of your Bitcoin that you put up to loan and pay off that loan entirely because it's fiat denominated, and walk away with a huge amount of extra Bitcoin because of it. Now, it's all about duration. It's all about volatility risk. It's all about managing that loan to value. That's why I built that loan to value calculator on Pleb tools. It's why I made that video. But that arbitrage, that fiat Bitcoin arbitrage, is not going to last forever. We are existing in a moment of time in between gold and Bitcoin called fiat land, and that is going to look like a blip in the history book. Like, people looking at in history are just going to think that Bitcoin came about and everybody adopted it immediately. And it's been 16 years and we've had a huge amount of adoption, all grassroots, all of this. But in the history books, it's going to look like it happened in an instant. And all of this, waiting around that we all kind of feel like for everyone else to realize what Bitcoin is and how effed, the regular dollar system is. It all feels like it's taken a long time for us because we're living it, but it's going to go by in a flash. Bitcoin, not crypto, down much live. Do I watch Forrest or Rajat? That's hilarious. I saw that he was live with Robin. That's so funny. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I was GPU mining ETH in 2020 and paying out into Bitcoin. Nice business. Analog. Sorry, and not and. I feel like I'm trying to say acetaminophen right now. Analogy. I run a piano repair business too. Yeah, I was actually mining before I knew anything about Bitcoin. Really, I knew a little bit. I was also mining ETH in 2020 with my GPU, with this same computer that I built, heating my office in Northern Ontario, and it was being swapped. I was using NiceHash. It was being swapped into Bitcoin right away. I didn't care what network I was supporting. I didn't really know that much. I knew about them a little bit, but I wasn't fully invested in them. I had a little bit of both and all that. And then, after the merge and after learning more and more, I was just like, yeah, Bitcoin, clearly. ETH is just trash. I want to buy Bitcoin 50 to 60 USD. What should be strategy? Yeah, it's really tough to say. I would definitely say, so this person here said limit order for lowest fees. Yeah, that's a good idea. You could use one of those custodial exchanges. Personally, I would use something like Bitcoin Well. They do have a cash account now, so I would fund it with cash and then buy Bitcoin with limit orders. Bitcoin Well is just my preferred exchange. And shout out to the link in the description for free bonus Bitcoin on sign up. With actually 50 to 60K, I would probably talk to their OTC desk. And what they can do is they'll set a limit order for you, or they'll set sort of a certain price target, and they'll aim to average that price target, and they'll execute all of that for you, so that you don't have to do that. Now you could just buy it, limit order, do it yourself. That's another option as well. But the idea here is it better to lump sum basically or DCA? This is sort of the same question, I imagine. It's less about like actually buying the Bitcoin and more about like what is the strategy to acquire it at a fair price. Dollar cost average is actually historically a worse strategy, because you're buying an asset that over time goes up and to the right. So it's just getting, on average, more expensive to buy it over time. That being said, maybe it's emotionally easier to do that because you're not buying a local top and then having to ride it all down and thinking, I could have bought there. Wish I had dry powder. So probably, actually, way too fast for you. Has got a really good suggestion here. Do both DCA every week and then also do lump sum buys when there's a few big red days. This is a really good strategy. You can actually create, as much as I don't love his content, and I think that it's kind of a little bit of a LARP, because I think it's probably just a little bit more of like trying to sell something. Tom Nash, he's like a YouTuber who talks about Tesla and a bunch of other bullshit. He has a strategy where he basically dollar cost averages and then double dollar cost averages below a certain trend line or a certain moving average, right? Throw up a trading view with a simple moving average, 50-day moving average, whatever, something like that, 25-day moving average. When it dips below there, double your dollar cost average. So you're buying on days where it's just technically underpriced, and therefore you'll be able to acquire more sats for less dollars. Damn, what happened? YouTube not giving an explanation. They gave an explanation. It's this verification thing that went wrong with AdSense, but they basically just suspended my account without any ability to contact them. They literally do not have any ability to contact them. So I'm trying to verify over and over and over, and it's just saying no. Yeah. Oh, Morpho is partnered with Coinbase. Yeah, so Coinbase is not my favorite company ever. You know, many reasons why, but they do have a pretty low interest rate. If you feel secure with their partner, with them, I mean, who am I to say what to do and what not to do? I do think that you have to do like wrapped Bitcoin. And then I wonder also if it's some rehypothecation. I actually don't know that much about what's going on over there because I tend to ignore anything that Coinbase is doing because they tend to not be the best actor in this space. The reason why I send sats is just to see how fast it goes. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's instant. And nobody here was got to be one of those sats that I just received from this QR code up here. Appreciate that, nobody. Bitcoin loud AF. It's peer-to-peer and private. People give out the interest rate. People give out the interest rate. What is peer-to-peer and private? Yeah, interesting. People give out the interest rate. Not sure what that's in reference to. When does Core 30 go live? I believe early access is already live. None of the nodes, none of the 10 nodes. Oh, shoot. I'm connected to 11 peers right now. One of those will drop off. So you can actually see. Let's take a look at my peers. These are the nodes. I'm only connected to outbound, as I said. Unknown over Tor. Satoshi. So 28, this will be Bitcoin Core. 28, 27, 29. Knots 29. Core 28. Knots 29. Oh, look, I'm connected to an older version of Knots 28. Yeah, no Core yet. No Core 30, but I do believe that you can already download it and use it. I believe so. I saw some people talking about that at least. What's Core 30's YouTube channel for when they go live? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Is Jameson Lopp doing a StreamYard call with whatever that guy's name is, the Naruto fan? Shinobi? What is your advice for anybody that has more than one Bitcoin? Learn how to secure it as best as possible. Think passphrase, dummy wallet, multiple backups, think multi-sig. Learn as much as you can about securing it, whether you have to pay somebody to help you with that or not. And that's going to be worth a ton of money at some point. I mean, it's worth one Bitcoin. And one Bitcoin, I mean, like I was, you know, is Bitcoin's price going up or is the dollars going down? Right? That's the real question here. And both is happening, right? And so here's some advice for the strategy as well. I'd lump 25%, then DCA the rest, but up to you. Also, kudos for smashing 60K into Bitcoin. Absolutely. Yeah, that's impressive and good for you. And yeah, that's not a bad strategy. Do, you know, a larger DCA, or sorry, a larger lump sum, and then DCAing, you know, doubling down on the dips. This is basically what I did. It probably would have been better looking back if I just lump summed it, but you just never know. And I did, you know, when those dips were happening, smashing, right? That extra cash, selling those other assets, swapping out a TradFi and into Bitcoin. What do you think about Brian Solston's John Nash theory? I don't know any of those names. I know Brian Cranston. I know Steve Nash. I don't know Brian Solston or John Nash. So cannot tell you. Reason is I'd rather have a bag than not, especially if don't have a decent amount of Bitcoin. Yeah, that's absolutely true, right? That 25% lump sum that you mentioned, you're already, you know, you already got you already got some there. You're invested. If it runs away on you, yeah, you're going to get less sats, but you already have some sats to begin with. You're already 25% in. So it's a good strategy. Private parts, but not the whole thing. Okay. Not sure what that's in reference to. I think I'm falling a little bit behind on these comments maybe. You still long on MSTR? Yes, I'm still long with my strategic short. So I am long on MSTR, selling covered calls weekly, relatively close to the money. I've only had to roll once, and I've made over, I have 100 shares of MSTR that I'm selling covered calls on. And on that, it's been, let's see, I guess it's been a month and a half now. And I made about $3,000 selling covered calls on that. So doing all right. I plan to eventually, so on Pleb Tools, there's also a calculator for covered calls, which is so awesome. And I don't know, I'm still using my spreadsheet just because it's like when you have to switch from something, like it's something I designed off my spreadsheet. It's so much more, it's so much better in a lot of different ways. But I still have to like input all my old data into there, and I just haven't done it. But once I do, I think I'll make it public, and people can follow along and see exactly my expiry, my strike price, if I'm having to roll, all this kind of stuff, and see my covered call strategy with those 100 shares that I do that with. Welcome, Black. Welcome, Black. Back in Black. Thank you, Platinum Circle. Appreciate it. For people in Europe, it's a platform where lenders and borrowers get together over multi-sig and some kind of smart contract. What's the platform that you're talking about, though? I'm not sure. Yeah. What do you think about Steve Nash theory? Personally, I go to Orange Theory and Steve Nash Gym after that. Yeah. FWIF. What does that stand for? FWIF. Good to see you in the chat there, Michael Sully. Not sure what that stands for. I can't remember right now. I did more lump sum than DCA, and it would have been better if I DCA'd more slowly. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, for me, it would have been better to lump sum, but it's really dependent. Oh, for what it's worth. There we go. Yeah, so for me, it would have been better if I'd lump summed, but yeah, it depends where you're in at the cycle, what you're lump summing, what your DCA is. But yeah. I think that since the vibes in RSI are pretty low right now, it's a much better situation to lump sum into than mine was. Yeah, exactly. So it depends on like macro or price action in general. I'm just going to bring up the chart here. I haven't even really looked at it. I know Bitcoin's doing its thing today, right? It's pretty nice to see. I will say, share this tab. Let's take a look. Ignore all my lines, people. I know it looks crazy, but all right. Yeah, so we saw this little dip here down to 108. Looks pretty normal to me, guys. It looks like a higher low almost too. Which this is, lower low, right? So we could be doing this kind of classic consolidation. I mean, this is more of like a meltdown ish, but this right here, whoo, baby, February to October of 2024, basically the whole year of 2024, except these massive rallies right here, just this sideways and down, lower lows, lower highs. You almost think it's going to break out. It just doesn't quite do it. That is so classic. And if you DCA'd again with, let's maybe throw a little indicator on here. Let's see if we can find a 25 SMA. Same as Binance. What is this? Oh, dang. Too broke to have more than one indicator on here. What indicators do I even have on here? I don't even have any indicators. It's not letting me do a single indicator. That's crazy, guys. Maybe I can do one of these. Maybe I can do one of these brokey indicators. Let's see. Moving average. Ribbon? Come on. All right. Sorry, guys. Too broke for this shit. Send me some sats. I'll buy a premium. No, I won't actually. I don't really need it. But anyway, I'd imagine what I was going to say here is I'd imagine, this is trading along like, you could look at the 9-day moving average, 25-day, 50. It's dipping below some of those at these lows, and that's when I would, double buy, DCA, sort of like lump sum plus your DCA at these lows. And arguably, you could say it's possible that we're going to do that again. I think a lot of people have high expectations for October. Maybe reasonably so. Maybe not. I don't know. We're pretty close to all-time highs. Like, it's not that unreasonable to think we could have like a little breakout. We're like, 6 to 8%, depending on if you're including the wicks or not. Yeah, it's not crazy to think, right? And I appreciate you guys letting me know what it's worth. Have you read the book Hijacking Bitcoin? Yes, I have. It's absolute ass. It is an ass book from Asshatville, written by Mr. Asshat. It is not good. It is really not good. It's just like, well, you know what? It's a propaganda piece that basically is very transparently biased. It's written by somebody who maybe does feel like he was on the right side of history, but he's clearly on the wrong side of the markets and of history's decision to say that big blocks are not the solution to scaling, and that creating PayPal 2.0 is not the end goal of Bitcoin. But it's really funny, actually. A lot of his justification for his actions rely on a lot of quotes from people that he thinks are respectable, but they're people like Jameson Lopp and Baldy from Coinbase and all these people that like are a little bit iffy. And so it's kind of funny that he uses them as references in that book, as like the points that he's trying to make to like reinforce his points. It's really not a good book. It doesn't really historically paint the block size wars in a meaningful way. It's more of just like this biased take about his opinion of why Bitcoin Core is wrong. It was interesting, actually, reading it and then having this whole debate with Bitcoin Knots and Bitcoin Core going on, and how some of the things that Roger Ver is saying are similar to what a lot of the proponents of Knots are saying. That part was interesting to me, because I do think that they're both right in the idea that having a small group of maintainers and devs that have a lot of control over the main implementation of Bitcoin, and therefore what Bitcoin is to some degree, is ripe for corruption and problems. I just don't think necessarily that they're as corrupt and devious in that moment of history as Roger Ver thinks. And I think that even now, I think that they're just being like, I think a lot of them are naive, or think that it's kind of like this digging the heels in kind of thing when you're wrong. Like when you're wrong about something, you're kind of also want to dig your heels in. And especially when you're like technically right in some ways, where you're like, oh, like doing this is better for compact block relay and minor decentralization, so people don't go out of band, and like all of these points that, yes, that is true, but is that really the solution to those problems, or is it really just not going to do anything in that respect, but also open up potential vulnerabilities in other ways by having sort of a place to have a serialized amount of data, as opposed to having to hack it in with these other methods that are cheaper already. So yeah, anyway, a little bit beside the point, but yeah, I have read that book. It is not good, but people could read it for a counterpoint. I just think it was unconvincing at all on his points. All right, so we're wrapping up to an hour here. I do really appreciate, again, everybody who sent those sats in to this QR code, especially in my time of need here. between monetization on YouTube. I say between because I have high hopes of getting it back. But you know, you never know with those ass clowns. Everyone's an ass clown today. I'm going to go back to Bitcoin Well here for the last people here. This is an opportunity to win some sats as well. So there's going to be a QR code popping up in the middle of the screen in a second here. And the first person to scan that with their Lightning wallet will receive some sats. They won't be sending them as a form of a donation, but they'll actually be receiving some sats. So it pays to watch this show, everybody. Is Rajat doing this? Is Rajat and Robin doing this? I don't think so. I don't think they're paying you to watch. I'm just kidding. All right. Yeah. First toss. We'll do 2 tosses here. So 4 tosses total. 505 sats to the lucky winner, whoever scanned this QR code in the middle here first with their Lightning wallet. And if you don't want to compete for this, you can actually just sign up using my link in the description. Create an account. You'll get 2,500 points, and each 500 points is worth a toss in the wishing well. And there's another 500 down the wishing well for 612 sats to someone. And it's been an hour, guys. That was awesome. Appreciate the questions. Really fun to chat with everybody. Good seeing your familiar faces in the chat, chatting it up. Just chatting it. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.